Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Hunter, and one of the questions I get asked all the time is, what the heck is media studies? So in this video, I'm going to do my best to give you a clear answer to that question. Now on the one hand, I think it's really obvious, because anyone watching this video is probably already an expert in the media. Because it's movies, it's TV, it's video games, it's social media. It's all of those different forms of mass communication that we engage with all day, every day. Now, on the other hand, it is quite complicated because we look at media texts from these different areas in a lot of detail. And I want to talk about those 4 areas right now. So there are 4 key concepts to media studies, and they are media language, representation, audience, and institution. Media language refers to all the different ways that a media text can create meaning. So for a film, this might be a camera angle that suggests isolation, let's say, or a costume that creates meaning for the audience. We call these things codes, and they have a literal denotation and a suggested connotation. So let's look back at the picture of Darth Vader. What we have denoted is a guy in a black suit who's got a very angular skull-like helmet on. What are the connotations of these things? The color black could suggest mystery, the unknown, death, evil. The sharpness, those really sharp knife-like angles on his helmet, they almost resemble a knife, and I think that again shows danger. And then finally, the skull-like appearance, where he's got these 2 big visors which look like skull sockets. Skulls connote death. So what we're getting here is, just from Darth Vader's appearance, a clear message that he's the baddie in this, even if we aren't literally reading the codes like I'm doing for you now. Now let's play him in a full sequence, and it should be pretty obvious to you that the combination of the music, the way the camera looks at him from below, and the way that he speaks,
you may dispense with the pleasantries, Commander.
All of these things are creating a great deal of meaning for the audience. The second key concept is representation. Quite literally, how the media represents reality in their products. So let's jump straight into an example. In 2016, the UK voted to leave the EU. So how did the media represent this story? Well, that depends very much on where you get your news from. So let's take a look at The Sun. All the way through the campaign, they represented Brexit as a good thing, something that would reinforce Britishness and tell the EU where to stick it. And they did this via media language, but unlike film, for print this will be colour, typography, choice of imagery, language and headlines. Take a look at this particular front page. The sun rising behind an independent UK connotes new beginnings, triumph. It might also be a play on the newspaper's name, and the sun, like the newspaper, rising behind the earth, maybe they're suggesting Brexit was in some part thanks to them. It would be very easy for anyone who actually reads The Sun to believe that the UK leaving the EU was a good thing because of the way it's represented. This just goes to show just how much power and influence the media has. Now in contrast, let's take a look at how the same story of Brexit was represented in The Guardian. Here, it's represented very much as a bad thing, literally through the choice of the wording in the very worrying headline, but also via the other stories on the front page, which clearly celebrate all of the great things about being united with Europe. Another great way of thinking about representation is through Facebook. How do you represent yourself online via your choice of your profile picture, the things that you choose to like, the photos you choose to upload? All of these things are creating a representation of yourself. So the next key concept is audience. Who watches the media and why? Now this is arguably one of the most important things when you're creating a media text, because you're designing it to appeal to someone. So by studying the audience, we're kind of adding pieces to the puzzle as to why a media text looks the way it does, why it features the content it does, why they're representing things the way they do. Let's go straight to an example. Mojo is primarily aimed at mature male readers, whereas We Love Pop is primarily aimed at teenage girls. Now look at the difference in these 2 front covers. It's clear from the content, the design, even the layout, that each magazine probably wouldn't appeal very much to the opposing audience. As an adult male myself, the layout of We Love Pop is very cluttered and hectic in comparison to the much smaller, sophisticated layout of Mojo. Now why do this? I think it's because We Love Pop obviously is trying to appeal to teenage girls, and this front cover to me looks almost like a scrapbook or a stereotypical girl's journal, and it's going to appeal very much to that audience. It also looks like it's much more value for money, and it's so crammed full of content that it's most definitely worth spending your pocket money on. And finally, we study institution, which is basically just a fancy word for who makes the media. Now, why is that important? Well, think of the difference between a documentary made by the BBC and a documentary made by Channel 4, or a video game made by a AAA developer like Bethesda in comparison to a game made by an indie such as Double Fine. Factors such as their funding, their ideology, they're going to have a huge impact on what they choose to make and how they represent the world, as well as more practical implications such as how their games are marketed and where and how they're distributed. Let's take Double Fine's adventure game Broken Age as an example. This game was a swan song to the old school point and click adventure game, which had kind of gone out of fashion with publishers and they stopped financing them. So Double Fine decided to put a campaign onto Kickstarter and let the fans actually fund a game. Now this had a huge impact on the final product because it made 3 million, which wasn't really enough to print discs, so it was distributed online. It meant the production values weren't going to be nearly as large scale as the likes of Fallout 4. And it meant they had a few complications halfway through production where they had to split the game in two to help finance the rest of the game. Knowing these little bits of information provide us extra content as to how the text was produced and why. So that's how we analyze real-world texts. But media studies is as much about analyzing as it is about making your own things. So if you were a media producer, how would you use media language to make the front cover of a magazine or represent an artist in a music video? Here's an A2 piece of coursework that one of my students did last year, and it's absolutely awesome. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to see the full video. Well, I hope I've answered that question somewhat as to what media studies is. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, leave any comments down in the description, and I'll get straight back to you. And I'll see you next time.
So we have lots of plans for our A-level and GCSE media courses going forward, and lots of trips that we want to do in order to enhance your knowledge and appreciation of media studies. So you can really see what media techniques, etc., and how they're used in a real professional environment. Similar things that we want to do are a trip possibly to Disneyland Paris for their Media Live conference, looking at some BUFI education revision days with guest speakers. We'd like to do go to the BBFC and work out how films and video games, etc., are regulated. We'd like to do a theatrical makeup workshop. Unfortunately, that's been kind of curtailed this year, along with some of the other ideas because of the coronavirus pandemic. So we do want to do as many trips and things like that as we possibly can to help engage and develop your understanding and appreciation of media studies. Although what we can and can't do obviously does depend to some degree on the government restrictions and guidelines and time frames and stuff that we have to kind of do anything. But we definitely want to be able to do at least some of these trips and visits. So because media is so diverse and it links in so nicely with lots and lots and lots of other subjects, there's a variety of media careers that you can go into. So specifically media careers, you've got things like advertising, marketing, PR. You have things like computer game design or graphic design, performing, photography, journalism, even web design and web development, radio, theatrical makeup, film and television production, lighting, costume, theatrical stuff. So there's lots and lots and lots of different careers that are available if you study media. Media studies also really complements and kind of taps into lots of other subjects. So in media, we do focus on a little bit to do with the psychology, where we look at the reasoning behind on its behaviours, the effect that media can have on people, etc. We do also look at sociology, look at how people perceive the media, how the media can help shape society and shape society's views, and how the media can influence society and individual people as well. We also obviously link into art. We look at photography. We link into to IT, because we use a lot of the computers to create our productions when you come to do your NEA. So a lot of things to do with image manipulation, video editing, etc. We link in with drama, because we look at costume and set design and makeup, lighting, etc., along with performance when you come to try and direct your models or cast when it comes to NEA. There's not web design, like I said, when you come to your own web pages, etc. There's so many areas that it kind of covers and it links into. So it matches other subjects really, really well, and complements lots of other subjects, as well as being something that's quite fun, also quite academic, because you do have 2 exams. So it does help you with that critical analysis wise, should you want to go on to a further education course that requires you to have more of those critical analytical skills. This is a brief outline of the course and the things that you'll study over the 2 years. There are 2 exams, both worth 35% each, so 70% in total will be exam work, but they're split into 2 sections for each paper, and you'll get to study lots of different types of media formats. You can see some examples of the set text that you might cover in the blue box, which are on the left of this slide. They're all generally really modern, contemporary, very different. So it should be really engaging, things like Stranger Things, possibly, Emily Sandé music video, David Guetta, Titanium, looking at Radio 1 Breakfast Show, etc. Minecraft, the newest Jungle Book. So lots and lots and lots of really new and up-to-date texts. You will get to do your own production as well, so you get to be really creative, work on some of your own ideas, but also gain inspiration from others and help for others in group scenarios if you wish and choose to. It's really up to you whether you want to work on your own or in groups for that. That is worth 30%, so about a third of your total A-level grade. You'll get a range of 4 briefs to choose from. On the following slides, there are some examples of the types of things you might do. The briefs do change from year to year, but we're really heavily investing in our equipment. So we're having new cameras, we're getting some new lighting systems, new tripods available to use with your mobile phones and etc. We're having a dedicated green screen room. We've got lots of Macs that have all been refurbished, so we have a bigger Mac suite available for you. We're trying to get lots of new programs and stuff available for you to use as well if you're going to use the print side of it, for example. So we really are investing and really wanting to try and push our A-level and our media students and give as many opportunities as possible to try and use as many industry standard stuff, whilst giving you lots of guidance and support to help you work through them and really learn how to use all the equipment and the techniques. So this slide and the next one have some exemplar video and radio production exemplars. The following few slides after that are all print-based ones. So some are based on a film, double-page spread or poster, magazine front cover. Some also are based on fashion and also include like a homepage and a working page from a website. So have a look at some examples. You can see the type of thing that you may be able to do and the kind of standard of work and stuff. It was really high and they were really, really good. They all looked really professional. I mean, always will give you lots of support, lots of help, lots of guidance to help you get the best grade you can on your NEA. There's often lots of personal one-to-one sessions if you want it, or personalised feedback as well. Throughout the lesson and written, etc. as well. There's lots of help and support if you need it.
bullying,
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it? We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool, not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
It's not how we treat each other, okay? Okay.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
Welcome to New York! Girl, this room is everything!
You know what? Let's get bossed up.
Yeah!
Ooh.
Mama's getting extra today.
Let's get bossed up.
A labor of love getting this made. Yeah, it's been the best and worst relationship I've ever been in. It's 11 years I've been trying to get this movie made, and you know we wrote we had a script. We did that about 6 years ago. Then we did a little bit of test footage for this movie. That test footage sat on a shelf at Fox for 4 years, and then about a year and a half ago, somebody accidentally leaked it on the internet, which is super crazy. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. Nothing to do with that. Very un-Canadian of you. Yeah. My mom was like, "What does this button do?" Guess we're making the movie now. And it just went nuts. People just started writing and flooding Fox with begging and pleading for the Deadpool movie to get made. And within 24 hours, we had a green light. We were making. Yeah, it was that quick. It was that quick. It was so undeniable, and it felt really good.
But also, you must be quite pissed off that you couldn't make that decision for yourself.
Yes, exactly. We tried, but the fans got it made. So there's a great story too. That this is totally fan driven in every way.
People who don't know, they'll be thinking, why wouldn't the studio want to make this movie? It's a superhero movie. Everyone loves that, and it is a superhero movie, and it's got all those things. Yeah. But it does also have this kind of indie movie sensibility and a kind of edginess.
Well, it's meta. I mean, the character knows he's in a comic book movie, but he works in the X-Men universe, so he's dealing with other X-Men. He's talking about other X-Men. He's making jokes about Ryan Reynolds. I mean, it's and it's rated R, which is unusual for Marvel X-Men type movie. I think it's certificate 15 here in the UK.
Yeah, we can take it.
Yes, in China. It's sad. I wish they could show there, but so it's a pretty unorthodox film.
And also, what's great is to reflect like that poster, but also you've done other posters.
Oh man,
unorthodox.
The marketing of this movie has been so much fun.
Are you involved in these things?
Completely. We love it. We're like giddily texting and emailing each other in the middle of the night, like, what if we tried this?
The emoji poster. I love the emoji poster.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Yeah, it's Deadpool. But that just started as was like as a jokey text message between me and a couple other people, and then the Fox marketing guy said, "We're gonna make that a billboard." I said, "You don't have the balls to make that." And there it is.
And also, you haven't forgotten that it's opening Valentine's weekend.
Of course, yeah.
So we've got
Nice.
that.
New love never dies.
It is, but I mean, I know there are references to Valentine's Day in it.
It is. There's a big love story in the film, and then the love story quickly turns. Can't say it here either.